Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we're doing something pretty unique. We've got research, notes, all sorts of sources on three animals,
Yeah,
the goat, the wolf, and the vulture.
right.
But here's the really interesting part. These animals are meant to represent, well, embody a subpersonality called Devon.
Yeah, it's a fascinating way to look at personality, using animal symbolism like this.
Exactly. So our mission today isn't just about the cool biology facts or history, though we'll get into that. It's about pulling out insights to help you understand what these animals might symbolize, especially for this Devon.
And we'll be connecting those, hard scientific facts with the cultural stories, the symbolism, to really build up a picture of each one and what it might mean for Devon.
Okay, let's dive in. First up, the goat. When you think goat, what pops into your head first? For me, it's often that playful, almost kind of stubborn image, maybe climbing somewhere impossible.
That playful image, or maybe their agility.
Yeah, there's this like inherent curiosity, maybe a toughness you don't expect. How could those first impressions start to tell us something about Devon?
Well, that's a great place to start. Scientifically, we're talking Capra hircus, the domestic goat, part of the Bovidae family, so
Yeah.
related to cattle, sheep,
Mm-hmm.
an old group.
Okay.
And physically, they're pretty distinct. Those horizontal slit pupils,
Yeah.
gives them a really wide field of vision. And the horns, of course, sometimes even more than two.
Really? Multiple horns?
Yeah, it happens. And they typically live, about 15 to 18 years. Some have even made it to 24, which is quite something for an animal their size.
Oh, wow.
But what's really key biologically is their diet. They're browsers.
Browsers. Okay, so not just grazers eating grass.
Exactly. They eat leaves, twigs, shrubs. They're super adaptable. They can thrive on really thin vegetation. And honestly, they'll try eating almost anything, even non-plant stuff sometimes.
Huh.
Very. And behaviorally, yeah, they're known for being curious, incredibly agile climbers, like you said. But here's something that might surprise you. Their intelligence is often compared to dogs.
Wait, seriously? Like dogs?
Yeah, they can learn complex tasks, solve problems. They even seem to form bonds and communicate with humans in, well, pretty sophisticated ways.
Okay, that really changes things. Dog-level intelligence.
Mm.
So this mix of like smarts, curiosity, and just being really adaptable physically, how does that start framing a part of Devon?
Well, it suggests a part of Devon that might have this almost hidden intelligence, maybe underestimated, able to connect with others, influence things subtly, and it's definitely a part that thrives by adapting, finding ways through situations that others might just give up on.
That makes sense. And they've been around humans a long time
Oh,
here.
incredibly long.
Yeah.
Goats were one of the very first animals humans domesticated. We're talking like 10,000 years ago.
10,000 years.
Yeah, likely from the West Asian bizarre ibex. We see evidence in places like Iran, Jericho, Anatolia,
Mm.
really ancient sites.
Yeah.
But here's a contrast. Today, domesticated goats. There are over 1 billion of them globally, huge numbers.
Okay.
But many of their wild cousins, like the Nubian ibex, they're struggling. Maybe only 4,500 mature ones left. So it's this weird split between abundance and vulnerability.
That's a really stark difference. So this ancient relationship, this deep connection, it must mean they're woven really deeply into our stories, our cultures.
Absolutely. Culturally, they're everywhere once you start looking.
Like what?
Well, think Greek myths, Omphia, the goat who nursed Zeus, or
Yes.
Jupiter in the Roman version, or Norse mythology. You've got Thor's goats, Tangisnir and Tangjostr, pulling his chariot across the sky. Powerful stuff.
Right, right. Pulling Thor's chariot.
And symbolically, they often stand for fertility, creativity, abundance, especially in some Native American traditions. And of course, sustenance, milk, cheese, meat,
Practical things too.
very practical. They even show up in religion in complex ways. Sometimes goat-headed deities, like Daksha in Hinduism, linked to creation and sacrifice. And then you get more complicated associations in Christianity, or even Satanism, representing rebellion or sort of untamed nature.
So a real spectrum of meaning there.
Definitely. And historically, their utility was just immense. Milk, meat, wool, skins for clothing or containers, even their dung for fuel, bones for tools, skin for parchment.
A living toolkit almost.
Kinda, yeah. Neolithic farmers kept them right alongside sheep. They were fundamental.
Okay, so for a subpersonality like Devon, that suggests maybe a source of core resources or just fundamental adaptability.
I think so. It points to that foundational aspect.
Mhm.
And even in pop culture, they pop up, maybe children's books or those funny internet videos.
Oh yeah, the screaming goats.
Exactly. And things like the Yule goat in Scandinavia, still part of Christmas traditions today, connects them to celebration, folklore. Psychologically, how we see them is interesting, too. We tend to think of them as independent, playful, maybe a bit frisky. There's an admiration for their curiosity, their charm, almost like cats or dogs, as you said earlier.
Hmm.
And that ties into symbolism like the horn of plenty, fertility, yes, but also resilience, exploration, creativity. And the diversity. There are hundreds of breeds, Saanen for milk, boar for meat, Angora and Cashmere for fiber.
Different roles everywhere.
Totally. Dairy and sacrifice in India or the Mediterranean versus, say, clearing brushland in the U.S. or Europe. Very adaptable in their roles, too.
Okay, so the goat. Ancient, practical, surprisingly smart, deeply symbolic of fertility, resilience, curiosity. So if this is part of Devon, what's the core strength here? What's the takeaway for this subpersonality?
I think it suggests a part of Devon with his really fundamental, almost ancient wisdom about adapting. Being able to not just survive, but actually thrive in complex, maybe even resource-poor situations. It's curious, resourceful, finds unexpected ways to grow and connect, really foundational strength.
Fascinating. Okay, from the adaptable goat, let's turn to an animal that definitely evokes strong feelings, sometimes conflicting ones, the wolf.
Oh, the wolf.
You
Yeah.
hear lone wolf all the
Yeah,
time, right?
right.
That image of independence. But the reality of their social life is quite different, isn't it? How does that maybe redefine the wolf part of Devon?
It really does challenge that stereotype. The gray wolf, Canis lupus. Biologically, they're impressive. Pretty big, 26 to 32 inches at the shoulder, 4.5 to 6.5 feet long, weigh maybe 50 to 110 pounds.
It's substantial.
Oh, yeah. And their fur color varies a lot.
Right.
Gray, black, white, even reddish. Helps them blend in across North America, Europe, Asia. Lifespan in the wild is maybe 6 to 8 years, but in captivity, they can live up to 16,
Okay.
and their adaptations are key. Thick fur for the cold, big paws that work like snowshoes, powerful jaws, incredible bite force. Plus, amazing senses hearing, smell, night vision are all top-notch.
And they're hunters, right? Carnivores.
Primarily, yes. Elk, deer, bison, smaller stuff like rabbits. But they're also opportunistic scavengers if they need to be.
But it's the social side that kind of flips the script on the lone wolf idea. Tell us about the pack.
Absolutely, that's central. Wolves live in these really cohesive packs, usually 5 to 15 individuals. It's typically led by an alpha pair, and usually monogamous, mating for life.
Monogamous, okay.
Yeah. Pups are born in spring, and the whole pack pitches in to raise them. It's a real communal effort, and they're hunting. It's incredibly coordinated. They have roles, some chase, some ambush, amazing teamwork.
Wow. So much more about cooperation than isolation.
Exactly. Evolutionarily, they go way back. Descended from ancient canides, maybe 1 or 2 million years ago. And of course, they share that ancestry with our domestic dogs, Canis lupus familiaris.
Right, the ancestor of all dogs.
Yep. The fossil record even has things like the dire wolf, Canis dirus, remember those from Game of Thrones? They were real, though maybe not quite that big.
Huh, yeah. So conservation-wise, how are they doing now? It feels like they've had a rough history with humans.
It varies a lot by region. They're still endangered in some places because of habitat loss and conflict with livestock farming. But in others, they're stable or recovering, partly thanks to reintroduction programs like the famous one in Yellowstone and legal protections.
Okay, Yellowstone. That's where it gets really interesting culturally too, right? Because wolves show up in our myths and stories in such extreme ways. You mentioned Fenrir in Norse myth, this giant, terrifying wolf.
Right, destined to kill Odin, symbol of chaos.
But then you have the Roman myth, Romulus and Remus suckled by a she-wolf, total opposite nurturing, foundational. How do cultures hold such, wildly different views of the same animal?
It's because they tap into something really deep, archetypal. They represent so much.
Yeah.
In many Native American cultures, they're wise teachers, spirit guides, symbols of loyalty, community. In Japan, the okami was sometimes seen as a guardian spirit.
Okay.
But then you also get the werewolf legends, tapping into fears of the wild, losing control, the beast within. Symbolically, they stand for that duality. Loyalty, intuition, teamwork on one side.
And danger, wildness, the predator on the others.
Exactly. They can be the noble warrior or the predatory outsider. They're powerful totem animals, protectors, pathfinders, sometimes even representing the shadow self, the parts of us we don't always acknowledge.
And historically, besides being dog ancestors, humans and wolves were competitors, but maybe also teachers.
Yeah, early humans likely learned a lot about hunting by observing wolves. But they were also rivals for prey. And then, as livestock became important, wolves were seen as threats. leading to those massive eradication campaigns in many parts of the world.
Right. You see them in ancient cave art like Chauvet Cave.
Amazing depictions there.
And then later in medieval bestiaries, they're often portrayed as cunning, maybe evil. Viking sagas, Native American petroglyphs, and they're just woven through history.
Absolutely. And that Yellowstone reintroduction showed their ecological importance, too. The idea of the trophic cascade.
Explain that again.
It's where reintroducing a top predator like the wolf has ripple effects all the way down the food chain. It changes elk behavior, which lets vegetation recover, which helps beavers build dams, which changes rivers, supports more birds. It restores the whole ecosystem's health. It's incredible. Wow, that's powerful. And in pop culture, they're still huge. White Fang, the direwolves in Game of Thrones, Balto, Ghost in Nymeria, Balto, the hero dog, part wolf, their mascots, Timberwolves, Wolf Pack, military squadrons use the wolf pack name, and kid stories, Three Little Pigs, Jungle Book, even music, like Duran Duran's Hungry Like the Wolf.
Yeah. So psychologically, we have this real push-pull, don't we? Fear and admiration, apex predator, but also this misunderstood beauty. What does that suggest about the wolf archetype inside us, maybe inside Devon?
It really taps into archetypes like the lone wolf, that independent, maybe introverted figure, sometimes seen as dangerous or hard to know, and the wolf in sheep's clothing, the symbol of deception. Though the whole alpha wolf idea from pop psychology, it's often oversimplified compared to the real, more nuanced pack dynamics researchers now describe.
Good point.
In dreams, seeing a wolf might symbolize instincts, maybe aggression you're not dealing with, or it could be a spiritual guide. Pack dreams might be about community, belonging. A lone wolf might mean self-reliance or maybe isolation. And we have sayings like cry wolf or keep the wolf from the door, deep cultural roots.
And there are different kinds globally.
Yeah, subspecies like the Arctic wolf, Eurasian wolf, Mexican gray, Indian wolf, each adapted differently. And views vary wildly, revered by Mongols, many native tribes, demonized in medieval Europe, honored as crop protectors in parts of Japan. It's complex.
So if the wolf is a key part of Devon, it's not just about being wild or primal. It's this mixed loyalty and independence, community, and maybe feeling like an outsider, feared and respected. What does that suggest about Devon's inner role, especially like socially?
It suggests a part of Devon with probably immense inner strength and fierce loyalty, but maybe also a struggle with feeling isolated, even while creating connection, that pack. It's about integrating those powerful, sometimes clashing energies, independence and belonging. Finding strength in both, perhaps.
Okay. That's a lot to chew on. Let's shift now to our third animal, the vulture. And let's be honest, this one often gets a visceral reaction, aversion, maybe morbid curiosity.
Definitely misunderstood, often.
Right. But I want us to really look beyond that initial ew factor, because I have a feeling the vulture might hold some really surprising, maybe even positive, transformative power for Devon.
I think you're right. Their role is absolutely essential, even if it seems unpleasant to us. Scientifically, one fascinating thing is the difference between Old World vultures found in Africa, Asia, Europe, like griffins, and New World vultures in the Americas, like turkey vultures and condors.
They look kind of similar, though, right? The bald heads.
They do, but that's convergent evolution. They aren't closely related. They evolved those similar traits, like the bald head, independently because it works well for their lifestyle.
Wow, okay. Convergent evolution. So the bald head.
It's mainly for hygiene. Sticking your head inside a carcass. Feathers would get pretty messy and harbor bacteria. The bare skin is easier to keep clean, and it also helps with thermoregulation, staying cool.
Makes sense. And they vary a lot in size.
Hugely. Wingspans from under 5 feet to nearly 10 feet for the big condors. Weight from just a couple of pounds up to over 30 pounds. Lifespan is typically up to around 20 years.
And their diet is, well, it's what people know them for.
Exactly. They are obligate scavengers. They primarily eat carrion, dead animals. The palm-nut vulture is a weird exception. It eats fruit, mostly.
Fruit-eating vulture. Okay. So how do they find their food? Just by sight?
Old World vultures.
Yeah.
Mainly incredible eyesight. But some New World vultures, famously the turkey vulture, have an amazing sense of smell. They can detect a gas called ethyl mercaptan.
Ethyl mercaptan.
Yeah, it's released by decaying flesh. They can smell it from miles away, which is pretty unique for birds.
That's incredible. And they gather together, right?
They do. Social feeders. When they're circling in the air, that group is called a kettle. Resting together on the ground or trees, a committee. And when they're actually feeding on a carcass, it's called a wake.
Kettle, committee, wake. Got it.
Yeah.
Any other weird behaviors?
Well, the bearded vulture is amazing. It doesn't eat much flesh. It specializes in bones.
Bones.
It
How?
carries large bones high up in the air and drops them onto rocks below to shatter them. Then it eats the marrow inside. It's incredible to watch.
Wow. Nature's wild. But you mentioned conservation issues earlier. Are vultures in trouble?
They are, critically so in many cases. Out of about 22 or 23 species, 9 are critically endangered, 3 more are endangered. It's a
It's
crisis.
just causing it.
Poisoning is a huge one, especially from veterinary drugs used on livestock, like diclofenac in Asia. The vultures eat the carcasses and are poisoned. It caused catastrophic declines, like 99% loss in some
Oh
species.
my God, ducklofenac.
Yeah. Habitat loss is another big factor, and collisions with things like wind turbines. It's a really serious situation for many of them.
That's tragic, especially given how vital they seem to be. This essential, maybe unsettling role they play. It must show up culturally too.
Oh, absolutely. Think ancient Egypt. The goddess Nekhbet, often depicted as a griffin vulture. She symbolized motherhood, protection, royalty. Pharaohs wore a vulture crown.
Wow, royalty and motherhood. This
Yeah.
is not the image most people have.
Not at all. And vultures are linked to really ancient rituals like sky burial, where bodies were left for vultures. We see depictions related this going back to the Stone Age, places like Göbekli Tepe.
Mm.
They appear in Mesoamerican myths, too, often tied to death, rebirth, transformation. Even some Greek myths involve transformations linked to vultures.
So transformation seems key.
Very key. Symbolically, they represent purification, cleansing, transformation, yes, but also death and rebirth, that whole cycle. As totem animals, they're seen as having foresight, patience, resourcefulness, being of service.
Service by cleaning up.
Exactly. They're not domesticated, but they have huge symbolic weight. Their connection to death rituals is ancient, and their ecological service is undeniable. When vulture populations crashed in South Asia because of that drug, diclofenac,
Yeah. What happened?
while other scavengers, like feral dogs, increased massively because there was suddenly all this uneaten carrion, and those dogs carried diseases like rabies, which then spread more easily to humans. It showed just how vital the vultures were for essentially public health, an unseen benefit.
Wow. So their decline had direct human health consequences. That's powerful. Okay, so psychologically for Devon, this complex reaction, we have revulsion, but also respect for their necessary role. How does that translate?
It taps into archetypes like the purifier, the one who cleanses, maybe the opportunist, yes, but also the healer of decay. Someone patient, maybe bold, unafraid to deal with the messy, uncomfortable truths that others avoid.
The healer of decay, I like that.
In dreams, seeing a vulture might signal a need for release, transformation, cleansing something in your life, or maybe confronting mortality. And we have sayings like vultures circling, meaning impending doom, or calling someone a vulture investor, implying predatory opportunism.
Right, that dual perception again.
Exactly. And remember, the diversity is 16 Old World species, 7 New World. Those unique skills like the turkey vulture's smell, the bearded vulture's bone dropping, and views range from sacred protectors in Egypt or Mesoamerica to being seen as unclean or taboo elsewhere.
So this raises a really important question for Devon. What's the unique insight here? Despite the negativity, what does this vulture aspect offer? How does that cleansing or transformation actually, manifest?
I think it's about more than just facing hard truths. It's about Devon having this unique, maybe even unsettling ability to process and transform what others discard, fear, or ignore. Finding renewal and resilience right in the middle of what looks like an ending or decay. It's about clearing the way for new growth, a really vital, often misunderstood kind of strength. So we've looked at the goat curious, adaptable ancient wisdom, the wolf complex, loyal, primal, social, and the vulture the purifier, transformer, resilient in decay. It's really striking how each one brings such a different layer, doesn't it? Different scientific facts, cultural stories, psychological impacts, all contributing to this picture of Devon.
Yeah, you really see how these different, almost disparate threads weave together. It's not just one thing.
Exactly. That interconnectedness is key. You get this rich, multifaceted whole.
Okay, so here's a final thought to leave you with. Thinking about these three, the goat's clever adaptability, the wolf's blend of social intelligence and wild power, and the vulture's ability to cleanse and find life in endings, what surprising combinations might emerge. What hidden strength could this mix reveal about Devon? And maybe what does it make us think about the parts of nature or even ourselves that we usually overlook or maybe even fear? There might be profound insights hiding there.